Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. The African Union has suspended Guinea in the wake of Sunday's coup. The Political Affairs, Peace and Security Department announced this on social media. On Wednesday, the regional body ECOWAS also suspended Guinea, with regional ministers landing in Conakry to talk to the junta about a return to constitutional order. President Alpha Condé was overthrown by a group of soldiers led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya. The coup has been condemned by regional leaders as well as the African Union, United Nations Secretary General and the US. But the military leaders have been met by jubilant crowds on the streets of the capital in Conakry. Many expressed dissatisfaction with President Condé serving his third term and the corruption and economic mismanagement of the country. In the meantime, the military junta has ordered banks to freeze all government-related accounts so as to secure state assets. The junta, which took over control last weekend, says the order affects institutional and individual accounts of the outgoing government. Senior officials of the ousted president, Alpha Condé's government, will not be able to access their accounts. The coup leaders say they want an end to rampant corruption, human rights abuses and mismanagement. Meanwhile, the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, is seeking a return to a constitutional order, deploying a mission to hold talks with the Guinean authorities. The bloc has also called for the release of President Condé, who is detained by the military. Well, let's get more on this story. Joining us now on the program is Achike Chude, an African affairs analyst. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa. Well, the African Union has also joined, regional body ECOWAS in suspending Guinea because of this coup. In your opinion, is this adequate, in restoring Guinea to constitutional order?
Well, I think the ECOWAS finds itself in a very difficult situation, really. Obviously, one cannot discountenance the very huge efforts they have made following the series of coups or military adventurism that we have had in many parts of the West African sub-region. I mean, that in Mali, we had issues in Chad, we had, I think, is in Niger and all that. So, and ECOWAS has been, very, very much involved and has achieved some measure of success in terms of engagement with the coupists in order to ensure that that these countries are brought back to the path of democracy. I cannot exactly say that that it is enough. There is a lot that needs to be done. ECOWAS is really finds itself in a very, very challenging situation where it would appear that the continuous intervention by the military in other parts of the West African sub-region would seem to put a question mark on the successes that ECOWAS has done with regards to discouraging coup making in the West African sub-region. But that is not to say, regardless of that ECOWAS has not done a lot. ECOWAS has actually achieved so much, but unfortunately, like I said, it would seem that the best efforts of ECOWAS is continually undermined by the fact that we have a repetition of these military adventurists in the democratic governance in their countries.
Well, the ECOWAS regional ministers have arrived in Conakry, to talk to the junta about a return to civilian rule. What exact points do you think should be discussed that will help Guinea return to democracy as soon as possible?
Yes, obviously the ECOWAS foreign ministers are in Guinea-Conakry to engage in discussion with the junta, the military junta in Conakry. I would expect them to do what they have done in other countries where we had military adventurers coming to power, and that is to impress it upon the military junta, the military adventurers or the coupists in Guinea-Conakry that they cannot have their way, and that they cannot be the ones to determine the political future of Guinea, and to also ensure that the discussion will lead to a quick transitional government that will lead back to civilian governance in Guinea-Conakry. There, we cannot have it any other way. Obviously, military adventurism within the democratic process is an aberration. And I think the ECOWAS has tried to make it clear in other countries where they have intervened over the same situation. So we would expect that they will speak forcefully. We would expect that they will not allow the coupists to set and to run their own programs with regards to the political transition program in Guinea-Conakry. It has to be something that the ECOWAS, I want to believe, should be able to dictate, to the coupists. And I think that is the kind of message that I want them to send, that I would expect that they would make clear to the military junta in Guinea.
Well, in the meantime, the military junta has ordered banks to freeze all government-related accounts so as to, quote, secure state assets. Now, they appear to have begun work and, just like you said, running their own program. And it seems there are no plans, on their part to restore civil rule.
Well, the freezing of government accounts by the military is what you would expect any military that takes over, legally over governance in their country to do. That is what is expected. Of course, you know that one of the first things they did was to suspend the constitution of, of Guinea. So it's expected that they are going to do that. Obviously, we've not had a roadmap on what they intend to do. That, I think, can be explained by the fact that this coup took place a few days ago, and so they are going to, they are going to take their time to come up with a program, that moving forward, that they are going to hope to implement in Guinea. So these are the things that are expected of them for any military government that takes over the civilian, democratic space. But I think there is one thing that is quite worrying, and that is the fact that for a very long time we have been saying, in fact, about 5-6 years ago, we were beginning to get comfortable with the feeling or with the belief that coup making in Africa would seem to be no longer fashionable, would seem to be out of vogue. But from what we have seen in the past 1-2 years, it would appear that it has, it really come back to the West African sub-region and is now very fashionable. And what could explain that? We know that ECOWAS and the international community have frowned very seriously, over these acts of military adventurism. But what I would suspect is happening is the incentivization. What one would seem, would be, looking at as the incentivization of coup making in the West African sub-region. And what I mean by that, is simple. Yes, the ECOWAS, has intervened so many times to make it very clear that they will not tolerate coup making in the West African sub-region. Members of the international community have also lent their voice to that process. But it would appear that it is the act of engaging these coupists, these military adventurists, accommodating them within the scheme of things and making them part and parcel of the transitional government that they put in place. It would appear that has been the greatest encouragement to these military adventurists, because they seem to be benefiting from a process that they helped to destroy. And so there must be another way, perhaps, for ECOWAS to get involved in that process to make sure that these coupists are discouraged one way or the other from benefiting from a process that they got themselves into illegally and illegitimately. It is critical, otherwise we continue to see a rise in military intervention across the West African region.
All right then. Mr. Achike Chude, African Affairs Analyst, thank you for joining us. To coronavirus stories now, African countries are set to receive far fewer COVID-19 vaccine doses that initially were expected from COVAX. That's the organization established to ensure more equitable distribution of the jabs. The World Health Organization, which helped set up COVAX, says there is a deficit of 100 million doses. It will now miss the December targets of 520 million. The UN Global Sharing Scheme says bilateral deals that manufacturing companies have with rich countries, as well as delays in regulatory approvals, are partly to blame for the reduced target. Well, police in Kenya have holding two suspects who impersonated doctors and administered what is believed to be fake Johnson & Johnson vaccines. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation says the two have charged many unsuspecting Kenyans $30 a jab. All COVID-19 vaccines offered in the country are free. Well, according to the investigating officer, they received more than 10 complaints from Kenyans who were duped, and they are asking for more time to investigate the matter. China's Sinovac-BioNTech has begun trialing its COVID-19 vaccine in children and adolescents in South Africa as part of a global study. The first participant received the jab at the Sefako Magato Health Sciences University in Pretoria this afternoon. Well, the study will evaluate the efficacy, immunogenicity, and the safety of the vaccine on children and adolescents aged between 6 months and 17 years old. 2,000 South African children are part of the global trial that will enroll 14,000 participants across Chile, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Kenya as well.
At the moment, in talks with Sinovac to set up a vaccine manufacturing facility, a phase 1 where we will do bottling and labeling so that we can get vaccines out to the people of Africa as soon as possible. We say as Numilux, vaccines in Africa for Africa. This clinical trial is a precursor to the establishment of a South African vaccine manufacturing facility partnered by Sinovac and Numilux Group that will cover the entire spectrum of vaccinations beyond just the COVID-19 response.
93% in the South African government is looking to the fan power of the sports and entertainment stars to push the mass vaccination drive. At the FPN Stadium, Deputy President David Mabuza led the launch of a social mobilization campaign titled Return to Play, It's in Your Hands.
Many months ago, sounds and sights like these would have been witnessed by many spectators who would fill up arenas like this that now stand empty.
It's so difficult to go out on the pitch and to play in a big stadium like this with no spectators, and it's something we really need to change, and the only way that we can change that is to encourage people to get vaccinated, have your proof of vaccination so we can get the stadiums full and get behind our sports athletes.
To return to this, the South African government is leaning on players in the sports and entertainment industry in a social mobilization exercise tagged Return to Play, It's in Your Hands. The launch was led by Deputy President David Mabuza.
Together, we can get out of this present challenge and move towards vaccinating the 40 million people by the 30th of December 2021, which we have put as a target for ourselves.
From super music icon to sports superfan to super soccer star, the hope is to get back to play as soon as possible.
We miss going to the stadium, in a packed stadium, up until now, I didn't even know that, the seats were orange because it's an empty stadium. So we missed the vuvuzelas.
Artists have stopped working. Sports people, not coming to the stadium. Can you imagine that mother who stands at the corner there and sells food whilst people are coming to the stadium? She's lost the money. She's lost her livelihood.
I'm so happy with this initiative because this means the country will open, everything would get back to normal.
Having that hope that government will open for us, even if they can open maybe 50%, it's fine. But for people to come 100%, they have to vaccinate.
On the business side, losses have been huge, from club owners to agents and to the stadium corner vendors.
The easiest and most effective way of returning back to some semblance of economic activity, to reopening up our economies again, is that we promote the vaccination of as many people as quickly as possible.
Everyone present was encouraged to take the vaccination message further. The South African Football Association, SAFA, has already promised free tickets for only vaccinated spectators to attend the South Africa-Ethiopia World Cup qualifier next month. And singing us out with the message was the famous Ladysmith Black Mambazo.
Let's vaccinate. Let's vaccinate. Vaccinate. Stay alive. Stay alive. Let's vaccinate. Vaccinate. Save South Africa.
From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Divya, Channels Television News.
Let's vaccinate.
Well, we move on to our Africa Tech segment. Months after the Nigerian Communication Commission signed a memorandum of understanding to facilitate the deployment of the fifth generation network in the country, the federal government approved the national policy. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Isa Pantami, said this after this week's federal executive meeting on Wednesday. According to him, the policy discusses the benefits that will be attained through the deployment of 5G, among which is the fact that it will open many opportunities in different aspects of the economy. 5G is the fifth generation of wireless communications technologies, which experts say will be about 100 times faster than the current 4G networks. Well, joining us now in the studio is Ojikutu Adeni, the president of Computer and Allied Products Dealers Association of Nigeria. Thank you for speaking to us on Africa Tech.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's begin with understanding the pros of the 5G, of those recently approved policy. What opportunities abound if we switch to this technology?
Okay, thank you. Basically, let's start from the breaking it down of what the fifth generation telecom network is. There was 1G. People might not remember when we were in 1G. Maybe there was no mobile telecommunication system in Nigeria then in the early 70s and 80s. We went to the 2G generation. That was when we were using the blue screen phones. We went on to send messages and pictures, just like a cartoon-like pictures. The 3G had better features than the 2G, while the 2 had better than 1G. And we are right now in the long-term evolution, that's era, which is the 4G, that's LTE. And that is, we could do video calls on WhatsApp, on all the networks, and that is an advantage. Now we're moving to 5G. A lot of things have, a lot of, what do we call, the conspiracy theorists. Okay. They had a lot of things, most especially during the COVID. Okay, 5G is just an expansion of the bandwidth frequency, and basically, it is just an advancement from what we used to have. So what are the pros? What are the advantages? It's enormous. But let me just break it down because of time. 5G will increase the speed at which we communicate. The time at which you press channelstv.com and it will respond. If it responds in 30 seconds, it will go to microseconds, less than a second probably. And that is 100 times most of the time what we'll be experiencing in terms of speed, capacity will increase. There are different areas whereby 5G is going to work and is going to be of benefit to us. And some of it are in telemedicine. That is to say that instead of people to leave their own domain to go to other countries for surgery, you can talk to an expert, or an expert can conduct a medical surgery via
the device.
Via the gadgets, either teleconferencing or through the telemedicine equipment, whereby he will be in his office in New York or John Hopkins Hospital in the US, and an operation will be conducted in any remote area in Africa or in Asia. Or a professor in Africa can solve a problem, medical problem, for a patient in developed world. It depends on where the knowledge lies. What this will say is that is just in telemedicine. When it comes to the 5G advantage of vehicles, is going to be, you now see, driverless cars.
I think we've already started seeing that,
and
in
that
trials.
will be as effective as you have a human being driving. In terms of robots, in terms of data management, 5G is just an improvement from what we're experiencing to a faster, more intense, machine knowledge, more intense cloud computing, more intense gaming. For people that are looking for money, this generation is a generation of games. Now, you will not need to buy an equipment of 1.something million naira, for instance.
Just do it online.
Like $2,000, $3,000 equipment. That is the Alienwares, the equipment. To say, okay, I want to play a game, or to buy, a PlayStation, for instance. From your local, maybe a Pentium 3 or Pentium 4 or a Core i3 laptop that is not a gaming laptop, for the fact that you have a 5G device, 5G connectivity, what that would do for you is that you can go on a website, a gaming website, and you will have equal experience with someone that has bought a $4,000 or $5,000 device or laptop.
You've mentioned,
or a game.
A lot of benefits. Now, are you saying, things that have benefits would definitely have some, disadvantages to that? Are you saying there's no, disadvantage to it? And you also mentioned, earlier, because there's been some skepticism from Nigerians, on the 5G network, with a lot of unproven theories going all around on social media. Tell us, are there any known disadvantages to this technology?
Definitely, there are. Number one, costs. It's going to be more costly, because when you talk of the infrastructure that are going to be deployed, the 4G network will not work for the 5G. There might be increase in patches and wavelengths, and but most of it will be replaced network infrastructure. And this is going to come at cost to the service providers. And more so, the equipment that people are going to use, most people, they cannot upgrade. They will not be able to upgrade to 5G. So you need to change your gadget, your phones, to something that will have a 5G.
Right.
So people that have gotten their own phone less than a year, maybe from 2020, some of them they have a 5G capabilities, so their processors will be able to still work under a 5G network. So, but for people that has maybe 7 years old,
would have to upgrade their
you have
devices.
to upgrade, and it will be costly for you, definitely.
All right. I wish there was more time to explore all of this. But thank you so much, Mr. Ojikutu Adeniyi. Thank you for joining us on
Thank you
Africa
for
Tech.
having me. It's always my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And that's all we have on the program for today and for the week. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.